Hello everyone from Saturday Night Live, Life Recovery Ministry here in Joplin, here at Central Christian Center. We welcome you to our live broadcast. We're here in a live meeting, and of course if you're needing a live meeting, here we are. How do you find us is at 4th and Main, actually closer to 5th and Main in the alley. There's signs out in the alley that says Saturday Night Live and pointing you to the room. We're downstairs in the basement, and we welcome you to come and be with us every Saturday night. So I'm going to start off with I think this is a quote that I want to share, and it's from Winston Churchill. He says, "Without a meaningful purpose to help steer us, it can be challenging to feel secure, productive, and valuable." I thought that was a good quote. Shall I say it again?
Yes.
All right. I'll say it a little quicker this time. Without a meaningful purpose to help us steer, it can be challenging to feel secure, productive, and valuable. And we talk a lot about meaning and purpose around here because, well, without it, it's just like he said. You don't feel any value. You don't feel. It's hard to feel productive or a purpose, and you definitely don't feel secure. So, and to recognize that, and a lot of folks that are fighting addictive issues, whether it's substances or behaviors, oftentimes they lose purpose. They feel hopeless. They feel helpless, and so they resort to just numbing out or escaping, right? And so what we need to do is recognize that. And I want to encourage you to focus on whether finding your purpose or becoming aware of your purpose. And in fact, on Sunday night here at Central, we have been teaching over the book, The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. In fact, not this Sunday night, but next Sunday night, I'll be teaching in that class. Different ones are teaching every Sunday night, and I'll be doing that a week from this Sunday night. A little commercial. Is that okay? So, anyway, tonight we're going to be addressing step 10, and that is we continue to make personal inventory, which is so very important for recovery. Continually checking up, checking on yourself, checking how you're doing, seeing the good things and the bad things. But the rest of the step is that we continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admit it. And I think that's so important, because a lot of times that's kind of how we correct ourselves, but that's not all recovery, because we need to also recognize what we've done right. We need to know what we've done wrong, but what we've done right. Sometimes we don't want to see the wrong, but after a while, sometimes that's all we see is the wrong. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
So, tonight we're going to be talking about dealing with anger, and Tommy's going to be taking care of that step and sharing that out of the Life Recovery workbook and Bible. And I'm going to be talking a topic that I got off of the internet, and that is 8 ways to deal with your anger. Plus, I'm going to also be talking about H.A.L.T. and explain what that word H.A.L.T. means out of the recovery material. So I'm going to turn this over to John. He's going to read the 12-step for us, so welcome, John. Hey, John.
Step 1, we admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. Step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, we admitted to God, to others, and to ourselves and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Step 7, we humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and power to carry it out. Step 12, having a spiritual awakening. As a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all of our affairs.
Thank you, John. I'll take care of it. I don't think you'll leave the mic on, won't you, Tommy? Hey, I also forgot to mention that we're going to be having Roundup Day this coming Sunday, tomorrow at 10:30, and chili out on the parking lot, and buggy rides, inflatables for the kids, and all kinds of things going on. And so Tommy is coming to give us the step information. Now we're going to know how to deal with our anger, because Tommy's going to give it all to us. He's getting prepared. He's got a surprise for you here. So welcome, Tommy. Here's Tommy.
Hey everybody. Well, I enjoy masks, and I wore a lot of them often, and one of them was anger. So I thought this was fitting. All right, here we go. Dealing with anger. So you get angry at that, huh? Bible reading is, it says, we continue to take personal inventory, and we were wrong and promptly admitted it. Many of us have hard times dealing with anger. Some of us have a history of rage. So we try to stifle our feelings. Other of us stuff down the feelings of anger, pretending they don't exist because we were never allowed to express them in the past. If some of our problems stem from not knowing how to express anger properly, we may try to avoid dealing with it altogether. We may try to pull it off and hope it goes away. Evaluating how to deal with the anger appropriately is an important part of our daily inventory. The Apostle Paul said, don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you're still angry. For anger gives a foothold to the devil. That's Ephesians 4:26-27. One key is to have daily time limits for handling our anger. Time to find ways to express the feelings and then let them go. Dealing with anger promptly is important because when it is left to fester, it becomes bitterness. Bitterness is anger that has been buried and given time to grow. The Bible warns us, get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and slander, as well as all types of evil behavior. Instead, be kind to each other, tenderhearted, forgiving each other, just as God, through Christ, forgave you. That's Ephesians 4:31-32. And I like the way it said it in Ephesians 4:26-27 in the NSB 2020 version. It says, be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down in your anger, and do not give the devil an opportunity. I still to this day am angry with some people. What I choose to do with this anger is different than when I was younger, and that gives me peace of mind knowing I have some control over my reaction to my angry emotions, not turning to acts of mayhem. My response verbally may not always be correct in dealing with some people that irritate me, but I do know this, I'm a work in progress. When I was young, I was confused, lost in addiction and chaos. My buttons were easily pressed, and I would lose my cool in a blink. As I've gotten older, I see that if I calm myself and change the channel and come back to deal with it after I've had some time to think it over, life flows much more smoother. Here is the present day situation. In my job, people are sometimes extremely rude, and I have learned to leave the situation's negativity there and carry on with my job so that they don't control me and I become angry. So I gave this a lot of thought, having come from a home being raised by my mother that I would say was angry 70% of the time, and that rubbed off on me in my youth and infected my relationships with my family, teachers, friends, foster parents, etc. I was extremely angry and reacted immediately with vengeance in my preteen years and as I got older, and this was when the drug use and hostility started in my life. I knew when I was finally caught, my response was a mess of several various traits of anger. I learned then and believed that my anger would protect me. Was I wrong? It took many years of failure through using anger as a coping mechanism to see the light. And I do participate in like more passive types of anger nowadays, or I'll catch myself quicker. Because when I was younger, I used all the forms like, where is it? Fear-based, frustration-based, pain-based, chronic and manipulative anger. But having dealt with many of the situations in life that have fueled my chaotic behaviors, I feel safer to be in my own skin. Don't fear how I might fall to my anger's destruction.
Thank you, Tommy.
Here's Doug.
Thank you, Tommy. Appreciate that, Tommy. Appreciate that. All right, yes. You know, one thing about doing the steps, and Tommy, you have shown this in the last several months, many months, that how it can change your life, and it has had an effect on your life. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, because I was remembering a situation like back in the winter.
Come on, back up here.
Should I put my mask on?
Do what?
Someone left their toupee.
Yeah. I'll put it on top of my head.
Well, in like 8 months ago, I got so mad about two or three different things. I was mad. I almost used a bunch of cuss words right there. I was that mad about some things. And then I realized that some of them it was okay to be mad with because that meant I was starting to deal with them, but the other things were really not even my business. So today I'm like, okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Good deal.
Thanks.
And in working the steps is a way of helping us to move through pieces of things that's going on in our life. Going on things in our life, and so anyway, I just wanted to compliment you, and it has an effect on all of us. So if you're not working the steps, yeah, I'm pointing at you. You need to be working the steps because it's not really you working the steps; they work on you.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because like some of that I left out at the last because I felt that was kind of personal, and that was okay.
And we don't make big changes all at once normally.
No.
Not that we can't, but oftentimes it's increments, a piece at a time. We grow. And because if we knew all the truth that we need to know, we couldn't handle the truth. Does that sound familiar? And so what we have to do, He allows us, He leads us, the Holy Spirit leads us and guides us, and He takes us step by step and helps us along the way. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
Okay, Angie, are you ready to reflect? I kind of jumped in there and reflected a little bit, but that's
Yeah, you did.
all right. So hopefully I didn't take any of your stuff.
That's okay. Thank you.
Is it about where you need to be?
Yep. Okay, so Ephesians 4:26 says, "Be ye angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath, neither give place to the devil." So basically, God says, you know, if you got to be angry, but it's all in how you deal with it. Don't sin in the
Yes.
process of dealing with your anger.
Yes.
Don't let it control you so much that you lose yourself even. And, you know, the sun shouldn't go down without you saying, you know, being angry at especially anybody. You should always, my parents have always taught me to say you're sorry before you go to bed, because you just never know what's going to happen within the next few minutes either. So, and then it says that, you know, that anger, if you let it manifest in you, it gives a place for the devil to come in and steal your joy and steal your sobriety and everything that you've worked so hard to do. So it's very important to deal with that. I always look at things as it's not meant to be if it doesn't happen, or, you know, or there's somebody always worse off than I am. So I try not to get angry at anything. Problems I'm dealing with now is dealing with other people's anger. And you know, that it gets so severe that they are jeopardizing everything. So, and trying to avoid all of that, to me, is complicated right now. And I'm not even sure how to deal with all that right now. But you can't control somebody else, but you can control yourself and how you deal with it.
Yes.
So don't let anger control you.
Good deal. Thank you, Angie. I appreciate that. Those are some good statements, and maybe possibly when I talk about here about the 8 ways to deal with anger, maybe it'll help in that area. So we'll see. So any questions or thoughts about what Tommy and Angie have to talk about? Any thoughts or comments? And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to move the mic around and. No comments? No thoughts? Well, one of the things that it said in the book was that it talks about H.A.L.T. And that's, let me get to that information where, there it is. And that is out of the Alcoholic Anonymous teaching. I'm having time talking today. It talks about don't be too hungry, too angry, too lonely, too tired, right? And so why would they say don't be too hungry, too angry, too lonely, or too tired? Why would they make a statement like that? Well, I'll tell you. Because they're being, let's just start off with angry. If you're hungry, and that's the first letter of H.A.L.T, H. Because if you're hungry, oftentimes too hungry, all right, that for a lot of people causes them to be, how can I say it? Angry. It could be grouchy. How about grouchy? Irritable. Salty. Hangry. Yes, that's angry and hungry at the same time. And so, so if you're because of the chemical issues and your brain being able to function, if you're too hungry, oftentimes all you can do is be anxious or irritated. Because of your glucose levels may be low or whatever, so it can affect you emotionally.
I notice when I go to work and if I forget to eat before I leave or I don't eat, I have no tolerance for like some of the people I have to deal with, like immediately, no tolerance.
And that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So, so if you recognize that, not that you have to always eat a lot. I remember this flashed in my mind as you was talking about, Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about that some of his students, when he was teaching, or when he was a professor at college, they would not eat before they'd come. And your brain, he said, their brain didn't have any fuel to be able to think. And if they can't think, and they're not able to remember, so basically, for the most part, they're wasting their time. So you have to have enough fuel. And by the way, your brain burns a lot of your fuel, a lot of your sugars. It's necessary to function. Now, oftentimes we may, go too far, but we just need to be aware, as you've stated, that we need, if we're in a bad situation, it can affect how we hear things, how it affects us emotionally, our tolerance level. So, recognize that. Too angry, if you're loaded up with anger and you're waiting for somebody to just do something so that you can explode, that means you need to address your anger. And that's what step 10 is talking about, is that we need to take personal inventory. And I'll be talking more about that here in a little bit. And then loneliness, if you get, the tragedy of loneliness is, and by the way, through research that's been done on addiction, they say loneliness is the #1 cause of addiction. Okay? I'll say that again. Loneliness is the #1 cause of addiction, because you are lonely, and so you use different addictive coping mechanisms to try to offset that loneliness. And the trouble is, it doesn't fix the loneliness. It just numbs or avoids the loneliness. Does that make sense? So what's the answer? That you got to come out of the cave. You got to stop isolating yourself. Shall I say that again? You got to stop isolating yourself. You say, well, I get hurt every time I'm around. Well, you need to have healthy connections, all right? And you say, well, I don't know how to have healthy connections. Well, so you have to learn how to have healthy connections. Does that make sense? Yep. Right? Shall I say it again? You have to learn how, just like everything in life, you have to learn. You have to get information. You have to be aware. You have to take strategy. You have to develop. It's a piece at a time. And because if you don't, then you're going to go into that cave. And then what happens is people get so overwhelmed and lonely that eventually you'll end up coming out of that isolation. And by the way, one of the main ways when they imprison people and punish them is isolation. Yep. Okay, because we have to have social contact to, for the most part, to be mentally and emotionally stable. So when we come out of that isolation, when we finally force ourselves out because we can't take it anymore, then because you're being driven out, oftentimes then you make unhealthy connections because you're so emotionally hungry. In other words, you'll eat anything. Like if you were so hungry. Well, I tell a story, an ancient story about a little boy that was walking down the road, a dusty road, and he was so hungry, his stomach was distended, he was starving to death, and he saw a dead animal laying on the side of the road, and it had bugs crawling around in it, flies, and he scraped off the worms and the flies and took a big bite of the meat, and it was good for a little while. But the meat was rancid, and it killed him. So he was so hungry, he made an unhealthy choice. Emotionally, we can do the same thing. Yep. Emotionally, we can do the same thing. It's important, so I'll say it one more time. Emotionally, we can do the same thing. So if we get too lonely, then we can push ourselves in a reactive behavior and make unhealthy choices as far as connections, okay? Yes, it will feed that need, but it also might kill you. All right? So, and the last one is tired. Tired, you know, one thing that a lot of us do is that we push ourselves so hard, and that's sometimes an avoidance technique, and we run ourselves down so we don't have to think about what's going on. Do you know what I'm talking about? Anybody? Am I hitting anybody? And so when you get so tired, and I've done it. In fact, I'm gonna tell a story of myself. And this has been many years ago. I said, I heard this come out of my mouth. I'm confessing my sins, okay? I said, I was working for the church. I worked 7 days a week, and usually 10 to 12 hours plus a day. And I enjoyed what I was doing, but I was excited. But I heard myself say, I wish I could get sick so I could just have some time off. I could have time off, but I wouldn't give myself time off. You know what I'm talking about? And so I heard myself do that. It was in November. My wife, she wanted to do something nice to me, so she arranged with a fella from the church to take me on a hunting trip, which I really didn't want to go on. She actually bought me a compound bow to go on this trip to hunt deer with, but I didn't see a deer. I didn't shoot a deer. In fact, I even gave my bow away a few years later to my son-in-law because I never used it. But my point of my story is we went on this trip, and we took my father's camper, which I don't normally do, but she made the arrangements, so I went on and did that. I don't like to borrow things. And we went, and I got sick. just going, I got sick. And so I remember hearing myself say, well, I wish I could take some time off, and I just maybe get sick so I could take some time off. I got sick, and I thought, I did this to myself. Next time I'll just take some time off. I don't know. Is that story okay?
Yes.
Okay. And so that was a lesson that I had to learn several times before I got it, and I don't know that I've still fully got it.
That's kind of like speaking things into existence.
And yeah, absolutely. And so, but you know, I had a guy ask me the other day. He says, "People come in and talk to you. What do they really come in to you and talk to you about?" I said, "Well, most of the time they come in to talk to me about things that they know they need to do, but they're not doing them." What do you think?
Why don't we talk to you?
Anyway, so if we get overtired, then we're not able to focus, we're not able to think, we're also very irritated, we're sometimes can be on edge, and you know the rest of the story, right? So part of our checkup, part of our inventory that we need to take is we need to look at ourselves, okay? Am I hungry? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Is it because I'm hungry? Is it because I'm angry? Is it because I'm lonely? Is it because I'm tired? You know, that's just one little instrument to help us to focus on what's going on inside. What do you think? Would that be a helpful tool that you could apply? Okay, all right. Any questions on that before we go on to 8 ways to deal with your anger? No comments? All right. All right, let's see, where am I at? Oh, here we are. First up, we need to recognize that anger isn't a bad emotion, okay? Now, a lot of times we think anger is bad. We think that anger is sin. In fact, another scripture in Ephesians, which I should have probably looked it up, and it said, "Be angry, but sin not." So anger in itself is not bad. the scripture that Tommy read, and I think Angie also touched on, was about don't let the sun go down on your anger or your wrath. If you can just look at that about you need to set time limits on your anger. I mean, you can't let that anger run unchecked. And because the fact of it is, it's emotional poison. And yes, it's not bad. The reason why it's not bad is because it's a emotional signal or sign to tell you that you need to address some sort of encroachment to your own personal boundaries, all right? And the key here that what anger, how to deal with anger is it's not the anger, it's how you respond when you're angry. Your approach in anger, your technique in communicating, you know, how you communicate to others. And so that's really the big issue here. And that anger can actually be a signal to help you to be honest with yourself and with others. Now, you got to be careful that you're not overly harsh or overly maybe honest, okay? But we need to use anger as a signal to help us to be aware. Just as H.A.L.T is a signal to help us to be aware and to use that as a tool of inventory. Anger can be also used as a tool, even though it's part of it, right? It's part of H.A.L.T. So what matters is how you cope with and expression of your anger. It's how you cope with anger and how you express your anger. All right, and it says here in the information says, we're not guaranteeing you won't still be in a bad mood, okay? You know, you may be a little bit down, but if you deal with things in a better way, you'll be less apt to negatively affect you and your own relationships that you're around, okay? So you deal with the issue, but you deal with it appropriately, right? Oftentimes I tell people that work for me, I said, now we got to deal with this problem, but just be nice, right? Right?
Working on it.
Right? Just be nice, okay? Be nice. And
Do I have to?
do what?
Do I have to?
Do you have to?
Do I have to?
You don't have to do anything, but
It would be nice.
it would. She said, but it would be nice. It would be in your best interest, okay? Because the fact of it is, things will go better for you, all right?
Yeah.
Isn't that true?
Yep.
Okay. Now, the fact of it, there are times, I remember a time when my dad was really sick and she called, and I think I've told this story, but she called me in the middle of the night. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I went, and because my dad was having a hard time, my mom wasn't getting what she wanted from the nurses, so I showed up, and she says, well, aren't you going to start yelling at them? And I said, no, we're going to take it one step at a time. And I just stood there for a minute because I wanted to get the facts, because facts are important, right?
Yes.
To listen, okay? Seek first to understand, okay? Principle, seek first to understand, and then you'll be understood. And so I wanted to listen, and then she said, you just show up and they start taking care of stuff. Because they started dealing with it. I didn't even do anything. I was just listening to what was going on. And so the thing of it is, yeah, there may be a time that you have to get a little harder, but that's not the first step, generally speaking, right? That'd be a good place to say amen.
Amen.
Okay,
Amen, no mind.
let's hurry. All right, so, okay, all right. But if you do this, they go and say they don't guarantee that you, that will fix everything, but that you won't be in a bad mood. But at least, your actions won't trigger you and make things that you might regret later. Right? Isn't that what after the dust is cleared and the emotion is now settled, we look back and we regret what we said, what we did. And if we can eliminate some of that regret, we'd like ourselves better. And other people would like us too. Yes, that's true. And the fact of it is, oftentimes people, when they load themselves up with all this regret, then they have to, oftentimes, they will do unhealthy coping mechanisms to offset their own personal regret that they inflicted upon themselves. Right? You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Okay, the 8 ways to deal with the anger, and this is where we're going to start. All right, first one is, excuse me, recognize the warning signs. Okay, and that's what the inventory is about. Okay, is trying to become aware of what's going on. So this article was talking about these 8 ways to deal with anger, and the first one is recognize the warning signs. And if you recognize them, if you can get started by recognizing that you're feeling angry, because see, in the beginning, sometimes we're so familiar with anger, we just think it's a natural part of our life. It's just the way I am. How many times did I used to say that? Because that's what I was angry all the time about everything. Okay, and whether you believe that or not, but you know, you know, that's the way I am. But see, are you just I want to say a bag full of anger, you know? Well, you can be, but you don't have to be. And the way to begin to change that is recognize it, okay? And what are some of the warning signs? Okay? Because if you don't recognize it, if you don't look at the warning signs, then you're going to release all that rage, and you're going to vent out and react on somebody else. It's going to affect them, it's going to affect you, and maybe that will, you know, that does make you feel powerful, but the fact of it is that the way you want to be? Because you know, one of the things I use all the time is, I don't want to be that way. That's not who I want to be. That's not the way I want to be. That's not really who I am. That may have been how I acted, but that's not who I am. Because I know I'm better than that. Now, maybe in my early days I wasn't really for sure about that, but I know that now. Right? How about you? You don't have to commit to that. So what are some of the warning signs? Okay, these are some of the warning signs they put down here. Pounding heart, grinding of the teeth, sweating, tight chest, shaking, anxiety, raising of your voice. Well, how often does that happen, right? And we don't even know it. That's, you know, sometimes we just need to listen to ourselves, right?
Sometimes we know, but we don't notice it.
Right, and that's the reason why we're talking about recognizing these warning signs. Okay, so let's go on. Being snappy or defensive, yes. Temporarily losing your sense of humor. I thought that was an interesting one, right? Pacing. Do you ever catch yourself pacing? And see, if you can catch yourself doing some of these things, like pacing, then you can say, wait a minute, what's going on? That's a warning sign. What does that mean? Well, that means I'm angry. Or what am I angry about? Okay, we'll talk more about that here in a minute, but what am I angry about, you know? And so first, to be able to deal with something, you have to first be aware that it's going on, right? So this is what we're talking about. Step one is recognizing it. So recognize you're angry. And here's some things that help you to recognize it. Helpful so far? Let's finish. Getting a flash of a bad mood, okay? Right? I know, I was pausing there for effect. Being overly critical of someone, that can be so subtle, right? Overly critical of someone. Feeling argumentative. Shall I say that one again? Feeling argumentative. Did any of those, can you recognize some of those? What if you were to find out some of those, if you recognize them? What are you saying over there?
All of a sudden you're like,
Well, I gotta talk to everybody, right?
I was like, who's actually talking?
And everybody's sitting on this side of the room, so, you know, and so
There.
I was talking to right here.
I know, I got it now.
He's looking for his accolades.
Here, give me this ink pen. And so, I didn't hit him, I just threw him at his feet. So, are we ready to go to number 2?
Are you angry?
Am I angry? Do I act like I'm angry? No, I'm not angry. In fact, I'm kind of having a good time. This is the best time of my day right here. So, number 2, work out why you're angry. Okay, now here, this is step number 2. Okay, we recognize we're angry. Now you ask the question, why am I angry? What's going on? What's happening here? Questions are so important. When you get smart enough to ask the right questions, then you are starting to engage in a personal healthy growth cycle. Okay? All right, so there are a lot of reasons why you might be angry, of course. It's a normal and understandable response to some situations when you've been treated unfairly, or someone you know has been treated unfairly, right? It's normal, right? Again, it's not bad to be angry. It's how you respond to it and what you do with it. And if you use your anger to hurt other people or yourself, instead of dealing with, and oftentimes those type of responses never ever deal with the problem. They're just an emotional reaction. Okay, all right. Okay, if you're not sure why you just snapped at someone, think back, okay, on your day, or maybe even your week, who knows what, and try to pinpoint what happened. Sometimes things, we carry some things around and we just tamp them down and we don't deal with them. But if we bury emotional anger, it's not dead, it's alive. In fact, it's growing, right? And then it sticks its head back up later, right? And you may not even be aware of where it came from. Okay? So some other reasons why you might be feeling angry includes you're under a lot of pressure. Okay? Number 2, you're experiencing body or hormonal changes that could cause mood swings. Okay? Things that's going in your body. I was talking to a guy today, actually he was in the hospital, and he had fallen and broken his leg below his knee, and broke his leg above his knee, and broke his kneecap, okay? And he was doing okay now, but They weren't even able to give him any pain medication there for a while. And so I would say he probably, and he's normally pretty chipper, but my thought was when you're in a lot of pain, oftentimes you're not as, you're a little more snappy. How about putting it? Is that okay how I said that? So, that, I mean, you have to be, but you might have a tendency to be. You're thinking about that pretty hard, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so, and hormone changes, and that can be, we don't understand how our moods are controlled by our hormones, and that's not just females, that's males also. So, the third suggestion here is, you are frustrated with how your life is going, okay? Okay, well, like, what do I need to do? When you're frustrated about the way your life's going, again, as I said earlier, this guy asked me about what people come and ask me about is they usually come and talk to me about things that they know they need to do, but they're not doing them, or they're not willing to do them, or they're afraid to do them, or they're just stuck and they won't take action, they won't move, and if they do move, it's in a negative way, not in a positive way. You know what I'm talking about? And so we need to ask ourselves, why am I under pressure? What's going on? Could this be something going on in my body that could be affecting me? Now I've talked about this, there's been times I woke up and I was just in a bad mood. And we'll talk more about this later, but I knew that what I needed to do is I needed to get that out of my system. And and the way I do that is I jog. And if I jog, that gets that stuff out of my system, and then I'm more clear mentally and emotionally after that. I had a doctor tell me, he said, well, you shouldn't jog. And I said, well, I like myself better when I do. He said, okay. So, and I figure everybody else likes me better too when, you know what I mean? Okay. We're still on number 2. And so if you work on the first recognizing and then number 2 dealing with it, you won't suffer the damage or the effect of this anger, rage, explosion if you're able to deal with it, whether it's in your relationships, in your body, in your mind, in your emotions. Yes, number 3. Write it down. This is a great technique. Write it down. Work through the process. I had a fellow that talked with me this week, and it was having a major issue, and he said, well, last night I sat down and I did some journaling and I wrote this out. And I said something earlier, and he says, that's one of the things I said last night to myself. It was a question, and also the kind of the response to it. And so if we see journaling, writing things down is a self-form of counseling, which is very helpful because you're thinking in a different way when you're journaling. And you're asking yourself questions and you're trying to listen to what's going on, and it's very, very helpful. So number 2 is write things down. What's going on and why you're doing what you're doing, why you're feeling angry, and then that will help you to see what's going on, and then you can ask the question while you're writing down what I need to do about it, and what kind of action I need to take. How do I need to fix this problem, deal with this problem, or help things to get better? Okay? Any comments yet from anybody? Okay, number 4. All right, this is a technique, and we've talked about it in many different ways, and that is, number 4 is to count to 100. This is what they said. Count to 100. Counting to 100 sounds so simple, but it's a basic technique because, and I actually say count from 100 to 0, okay? It's a little more mentally challenging for some people. Some people say, well, that's not challenging enough, and they want to do it by, in reverse 3s and 5s, or say the alphabet in reverse. I have a hard enough time saying it forward. I don't know about doing it in reverse, but the idea here is, and their point is, if you count to 100, then what you're doing is you're directing your focus away from the problem, and at least for 100 seconds. And that causes that chemical that's in your body to begin to deplete, so that you can have a different emotion in your body and in your brain. So you give yourself a chance to not explode. Okay, it's a mission. I just had this thought. It might be like a electrical breaker in an electrical box, or a fuse. Where you don't blow it. You may just say, "Wait a minute, I'm going to turn this off for a moment and let things cool down." What do you think about that? Before it blows up, or blows out. Okay, number 5. It says press the pause button. Okay, you just take a pause. One of the best ways I can say take a pause is that you take 3 deep breaths. Slow, deep breaths. Oftentimes I tell people to take a deep breath, and they go, "That's not," I said, "That's not deep." Well, I can't breathe deep. Well, I said, "Well, let's try." Okay? Breathe deeply. Inhale deeply and exhale slowly, and do 3 times. There's been research on 3 deep breaths exhaled slowly has a physiological and emotional effect in your body. So, and in fact, Dr. H.A.L.T was a professor at Harvard. He says that you ought to do that at every stoplight. 3 deep breaths. Okay? So push the pause button. And because when you're feeling anger, you just need to pause. Oftentimes, when I get in a situation that I feel that pressure rising, you know what I mean by feeling that pressure rising, I kick in. It's kind of like downshifting your transmission the way you used to do it. You can do it with automatics too, but I downshift internally, slow things down. And when things are going slower, it's just easier to deal with. And I've done that a lot, and my wife has said, "You're so calm." So, well, thank you. That may not be the way I always feel on the inside, but fortunately, maybe I'm better on the outside. But generally, it's from downshifting. When I get into difficult situations, we've had difficult situations around here, Saturday Night Live. And my first step is to downshift. Calm down. Move slowly. Not that you're hesitant, but you take a pause for a moment, okay? All right, number 6. Move your body. This is exercise. Again, Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar says that exercise is like Prozac, and even better because there's no side effects, okay? And so that's other information, not necessarily on this article here, but it says move your body. Exercise is an awesome way of letting off steam. Like I already mentioned that about what I do. But you don't have to do running or jogging, but you can do walking around the block, maybe brisk walking, running, high energy boxing, maybe hitting a heavy bag or something like that. It really kind of depends on, somebody was asking about this the other day, and I said, well, it really depends on, unless you're using hurtful focus, pretending it's somebody else. I don't know that's the healthiest thing, you know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, it's better to hit the bag though than somebody else, I grant you that, okay? But the fact of it is, we need to practice what we want mentally and physically, instead of practicing what we should not do. How about that? We may even want to do that. We may want to hit somebody, but the fact of it is, it's not going to work out well, and you're not going to like it after you do it. And when it's all said and done, you may like it at the moment, but it's not going to last long, right?
It's expensive quick.
Yeah, it does get expensive quick, yes. And so, anyway. Besides that, then you go into that regret deal and all that stuff, so. Number 7, talk to somebody, talk to somebody. Number 7, talk to somebody. It's that emotional connection, and it should be somebody that you have confidence and that you trust, that you feel that is willing to hear you and not judge you. Be willing to hear you and not judge you. Did I say that? Be willing to hear you and not judge you. And that, and so that they can hear you. And when you do that, there's something about it, when you talk to somebody, it's almost like you're offloading some of that weight, and they're taking that. And because it's back when I took training for hospice, they said, when you dealing with people in dying situations or family members, when you allow them to talk, you're sharing some of that emotional weight, and you're sharing that load with them, and that helps them. And of course, you have to know how to deal with those things when you do that. So talk to somebody, talk to them, and see if you can get some of that off your mind, off your shoulders. And it needs to be a trusted individual that can help you process. Number 8, and the last one. Any comments before I go into the last one? Comments? Okay. Well, there's a guy over there that looks familiar.
Say you might want to ask them, guys.
Yeah, he's pointing at me over there. So, take time to relax. Take time to relax. Okay? If you know, this is good here. If you know what helps you relax, you'll find it really helpful or useful to use that or employ that when you're angry. If you know what it is that can relax, like me, that kind of downshifting technique, I know that helps me, and it keeps me from getting to the place. Now, generally speaking, I've been out of that for so long. I'm not. It doesn't. The concern of getting into that is very rare. Now, I know that it's real easy. I could call that up if I wanted to, right? And then I need to think about it. Do I really want to call that up, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm talking about. So you need to take time to relax. So it's helpful to know when you're going to relax, and maybe systems or techniques to help you relax, to help you enjoy what's going on by, again, and this is very similar to the exercise or move your body, going for a walk, reading a book, listening to music. What's his name? Andrew, can't think of his name. He's a professor at Stanford. I don't have his name right now. But anyway, he was talking about looking out into the distance, having a distant stare actually kind of refreshes your brain. Like you're refreshing the computer. It just a few seconds in a far distant stare. So a lot of time we are living everything's so close to us. We need to have it's a long distance, non-focused stare that helps our brain to reset, and that is a time that we can kind of relax. Does that make sense? Okay. What can we do? This is a thought they had down here. Try different forms of exercise. Their suggestion, trying different forms, which may help you to deal with your frustration. Number 2, set aside time every day to relax. Okay, or even a relaxation exercise. For instance, like the deep breathing we were talking about a while ago. You know, I remember talking with a person and they were always really uptight but they walked around with clenched fists. You ever seen anybody like that? And when I brought it to their attention, because they were asking me some questions about it, and so I asked them about just unclenching their fists, taking a deep breath. And oftentimes when we're dealing with trauma or anger or something like that, sometimes we just unconsciously tense up. You know, I have people talk to me about talking about backs and necks and different parts of their body that are affected by just being tensed up. No, kind of went into it. Maybe going a little further there. So, next suggestion, relax. Okay, I like this. Find out what your chill style is. Find out what your chill style is. Now, of course, we're talking about healthy mechanisms, not unhealthy mechanisms, right? And so you find out what your chill style is, and so that you can use it. So you can use it instead of not using it. All right, a thought for you. Are you ready for a thought?
Yeah.
Is it Zeke over there? He's hiding behind the pole. Am I doing okay so far? All right. Here's a thought for me, okay? This is my concluding thought. When we start something new, it is always hard and difficult. But with practice and persistence, it gets easier.
Like my job.
Yes, like everything.
I swear, in the first week, I think I deserved about 20 traffic violations.
Because you were focused on certain things and missed other things, right? And now you've got the system down and you don't have to be so focused on those things, and you're able to be focused on what's going on around you then. So, and you know, oftentimes, and this happened to me today, I was looking for a fan, and I looked where it normally is, I looked where it sometimes is, I looked at a place that I didn't think it was, and I thought, it's gotta be here. So I stopped and I said, I'm just going to move around. And so I just kind of slowly turned around and it was right there almost beside me. But I didn't see it because I was looking where I expected it to be. And instead of being aware of where it really was. But that's oftentimes the way we work. I don't know if that applies to anything we talked about here tonight, but I just thought about it, so I just thought I'd drop that in on you. You're welcome. So, any comments from the crew? Anything?
Obviously, when you said pause earlier, I was thinking about, and you said you were like talking about the last week, and there's a situation that I would normally respond a certain way to, and I didn't respond negatively or positively, I just responded neutrally, and then paused, and left it there.
And a great way to, again, to pause is to breathe. Just take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And those seconds, those 2 or 3 seconds right there can help us. I had a fella, when you said that, I had a fella that was, what was the disease that he had? It's a abnormal, do what?
Epstein-Barr.
No, it's Barram disease. Barram disease. That's not right. Anyway, he was paralyzed from the upper chest down, and he's very healthy. And I remember visiting him. He actually was in a nursing home at this time. This has been many years ago. And he said, yeah, and this was back in the time of cassette recorders.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, I think God has put me on pause. You know, the pause button on a cassette recorder. He said, I think God has put me on pause for a little while. And he said, and I needed it. And it was, you know, no, it's not Epstein-Barr. You said Epstein-Barr. And it'll come to me later, I'm sorry. But anyway, but it wasn't long, and he was up, and it, I don't think they didn't actually know how to treat it. And I hear about it from time to time, but it's very, very rare. But anyway, he, after a little while, he was up and gone, so. Anyway, any comments? Questions?
I find it best when I get angry, of course, I mainly want to get angry myself, to go to a song that we learned in childhood.
Good?
Count your blessings, name them one by one.
Yes?
And that calms me down.
Yeah. That's good, because you,
I realize what I have that is good
yeah,
outweighs what I have that is bad.
yes. You evoke that song, and you remember the song, and then I bet you it stirs up some emotion that song is connected to, and some other thoughts, and it begins to make a shift. Could that be called one of those chill mechanisms?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good. Anybody else have a chill mechanism or chill type you want to share?
Playing the guitar,
Playing your guitar, that's good.
reading a book,
Reading a book, good.
playing a video game.
Yes. Good. Anybody else? Something to ponder, right? All right. Hopefully this has been beneficial to you. Hopefully it's been beneficial to you all.
Yes.
Good, good. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May His face shine upon you and give you His peace. And of course,
Make healthy choices.
make healthy choices. Till next week, take care of yourself.
Are you talking about Gillian Bray?
Yeah. Say that again?
Gillian Bray?